edition of Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television. We say thank you for being a part of the show this morning. And of course, Samson Balogu is my name.
I'm Manolo Akpo, and today we've outlined major stories to come your way during the Daybreak gist, and of course the weather report will follow as well, and many other events. Of course, the big story comes up at the latter part, and then Trend Watch will also have us checking out the stories that are breaking and trending across the country, Nigeria, and across the social media platforms, if so to say.
All right, sit back and relax as we bring you interesting stories. Of course, when we get to that part of the show this morning.
Absolutely. Good morning to you, Samson, this morning.
Well, good morning to you. Really nice to be back here with you, and of course, do what we know how to do best.
Exactly.
Well, I'm talking about our Daybreak gist this morning, and that has to do with the Governors Forum, and it involves Rotimi Amechi, the presidential aspirant for the ADC, and Peter Obi, also the presidential candidate for NDC right now.
There's a difference
between these two. And I said he lied about Governors Forum's election, refused to repeat claim before God, author, and judge. I think we've been seeing a lot of revelations lately from different political quarters. I think yesterday too, Rotimi Amechi made some claims about when he said he wasn't going to steal, it was 80% setting at that time. I mean, what happened to the remaining 20%? And that actually raised a lot of eyebrows out there. People dropped a lot of comments about his personality, and the fact that they were asking questions about if they could trust him. And we also know that Peter Obi has also been on that fire lately about different things he said in time past that really cannot be placed anywhere around the truth. And a lot of these things will happen, especially when the election is coming. And to now say that we had issues during the Governors Forum, whatever, and then right now saying Peter Obi is actually lying about what he said the other time.
I think it's funny because, well, to me it's funny because some would not expect this to come from these two men, owing to where they come from and some of the things they've done together in the past. But, it's a revelation from 2013. And so maybe the question is, why bring this up now? So there are a set of people who probably think, Amechi is trying to work for other people except Peter Obi. Some have even made claims to say he's trying to help Atiku, or is trying to, because in fact, one of the popular opinions amongst the obedience is that Amechi does not know where he stands. Like, he's always on the fence. Today he can show you this side, or tomorrow, and then he comes again to say this. And that he's not a stable person, but that's also an allegation that have been put forward against him. But let's take it a step further now to see the claims of 2013. Why does it matter in 2026? Because that was the first question that came to my mind. If that happened in 2013, that's a lot of years. I mean, there's so many years, maybe about 13 years, if so to say, since that time. So why bring this up? It's an old issue. There are different major developments that you can speak to, but some have also alluded to the fact that maybe because they have not been able to find anything so dirty with Peter Obi, they're trying to find one. In fact, somebody said in one of the comments that I think they should go to church to celebrate it. They should do Thanksgiving because they have just found one lie that Peter Obi has told. Whereas many other persons in the political space, talking about Atiku, talking about every other giant, have lied almost all day. Yeah, so it was a comment. It was a brief, well, not so jovial, not so comical, but a bit of banters here and there, depending on where you stand. But a good number of Peter Obi's people, I mean, the obedient, like they say, are against this idea to say, you can't be a person from that side and criticize heavily Peter Obi. What about other people? I mean, are you not seeing the incumbent administration? There's so much to talk about them. Why bounce on Peter Obi? But others have also said maybe Peter Obi is the low-hanging fruit that everybody can reach. So it's so easy to say, oh, Peter Obi is this, Peter Obi is that. But, others have also made claims that possibly it's because Peter Obi is one of the strongest voices, especially coming to the 2027 elections. Some are saying that there's a chance that Peter Obi is going to be a prominent figure yet again in this election. You remember the last one that he polled about, I think 6.1 million or thereabout at the last elections. And so some are expecting the same. And so they are saying that for everybody that wants to become great in life, of course, especially politically, there's going to be a bit of backlash from here, from there. But the question is, why should it come from Amechi? And why should he also come from 2013? Why can't you get a new thing to say? Now, I'll just make my own, this is my viewpoint of this. This is my POV. It's quite simple about Peter Obi. One thing I know for sure is that there's no leader that's led in any position of power, of authority in this country that you might as well adjudge to be sane and 100% without blemish. That's not one of them. I mean, we are humans, right? And there's a saying that to err is human, but to forgive is divine, right? We understand that we are incapacitated in some way. We are imperfect in many other ways, and so that's the thing to say. Yeah, he could have lied, but how does it now really? So what's the implication of that? If he lied that the NG the forum, the governors forum, then did something that they were not supposed to do in the PDP, and I'm not sure that's so heavy enough to say this is something you want to pull against him to weigh him down. But then, exactly again, it's an opposition game now. They are not in the same party, they are not in the same boat. So anybody can banter, anybody can say what you want to say to denigrate or to bring down another person. It doesn't matter, it's politics. Interest is at stake. So everybody's trying to say one or two. But you know, if we have to maybe broaden it a bit in my purview, in my viewpoint, I think for one, Rotimi Amechi, judging from his antecedents and maybe judging from Peter Obi's antecedent, I think one of the things I wanted to do at some point, and I checked into what Peter Obi was able to do when he was governor. And I was trying to look out for very significant milestones. I know a lot of persons might throw bombs at me for this thing I'm saying, but if you also, the records are there, so go check it out. You'll probably find something that I'm trying to say.
You should be ready to be dragged by the
I'm actually ready for that because basically, Peter, I have no issues with Peter Obi, and maybe some will even take it tribalistic now to say, maybe it's tribal, maybe it's supporting. I'm not supporting anybody in this sense. I mean, I want the best for this country, and so maybe I need to put that disclaimer. So after that disclaimer, what I want to say is, I checked into the profile and the antecedents of Peter Obi, and I was actually, because of maybe the noise around him.
What were you looking for?
I was looking. I was looking for major innovations, right?
Projects that he executed while being a governor.
I was looking for major things, projects. I was looking for policies. I was looking for his policy administration, his policy prescription in his government. I was looking at his board, the people he appointed. I was looking at those people, and I wasn't so fascinated as much as many people are. And this is not to say that it cannot have improved from then till now. It must have grown. Of course, it's trying to become the president, so it must have seen a few things here and there. But I'm also looking for a way we can objectively criticize these people. We can bring them to the table to say, let's vet them. I don't want a president or a governor in my country or in my state
that will have less ideas.
Exactly. I want it to be that there's a scorecard to check, right? If you claim to have served in a position, let's scrutinize that. Let's criticize that, I mean, positively now. Let's look at the things you've done and maybe what you're proposing. Because to be a governor is different from being a president. What it takes to be a governor is just not as much as what it takes to be a president. There's a bit of gap in that. So I'm looking for, maybe come 2027, I'm looking for some of these things that they are going to say. I'm one person that would never listen to every of their manifestos that has been passed down from generations, because it's almost like they renew it. They'll just change the name and a few words, and that's it. They put it on ChatGPT and then it does something to it. But I'm looking for something strategic, because Nigerians are at a very strategic position now. We need people with radical change plans, radical innovation. We need things that are not like every other day. We cannot continue the same way and expect a different result. So I'm expecting something quite bigger than what they have done in the past. So if you say, oh yeah, my governorship tenure, I did this, but much more so, how can you do much better as a president? That's one of the questions. So I'm not saying this to Peter Obi. I'm saying this to every other candidate or aspirant, Atiku, even the present administration. That's what we are putting. We're asking the right questions to say, what are you people doing? What is the blueprint for the country? And I think one of the questions that should go into many debates come 2027 is they should ask every one of these people, what is your plan for security in this country? What is your plan for lives, for security of lives and property? What's your plan for how people can improve? I mean, that microeconomic, stability for humans, for people across the country. And those are the questions that I think we should push forward.
Okay, let me pick it up from where you stopped. You see, while I read that headline overnight, what came to my mind was how relevant is this to the current situation in the country, and of course that speaks to the kind of leaders we parade in Nigeria. at a time when everyone should be talking about policies to curb insecurity in Nigeria, ideas that could help the present administration. However, it will come with criticism. Oh, you could have done it differently. If I was there, I would have done this. These are how ideas are, are born. These are how ideas are implemented. These are how current administration actually taps from the opposition. Your job is not just to criticize, but to come up with, interesting ideas that could help the administration. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do, what you wanted to do if you actually got the chance to be in office was to help the country grow, was to help the country get better. And you could do that too while being on the sideline. That's why the coach is not on the field, right? He's always on the sideline bringing in ideas. Even on the bench, some players see better than those who are on the field of play. They know exactly, oh, I could have actually given the pass to to the striker, or maybe someone on the other side of the field and whipping a cross, and there could be an header. There are different ways to score a goal.
Yeah.
But then that does not mean my idea is the best. It could be that someone who is not even into what I am doing might have a better idea than I do, and that's the work of opposition. And I have always said this over and over again, that what we have in Nigeria is not actually opposition, it's antagonism. You are just there to antagonize. You make the administration look bad, so that by the time the next general election comes, they seem to be looking bad, and then you have a better chance of coming into the office. And that's exactly what we have in Nigeria now. Let's talk about security a little bit. You see that now people are talking about insecurity in the country. Oh, the president is not doing so well, he's not doing that. Is this the first time that we are having issues of insecurity in this country? There used to be a time that we had bombings even in Abuja. Right? The UN Center was bombed in Abuja under an administration of a political party. And nobody is talking about that. If you measure, just that there is no reasonable yardstick to measure how many people died so time compared to what we have now. How bad was insecurity then and what we have now? But then the fact that we are experiencing it will make us complain about insecurity. But then, is this the first time that we have seen bombings? There has to be a time where from mosque to mosque there were bombings in Borno, in Yobe, and that even has stopped, right? So it's not about how we criticize. It's about what we bring to the table when we criticize. And that's exactly what is actually missing when we talk about opposition in Nigeria as we speak. Rotimi Amechi is expected to be an elder statesman as we speak. He's been governor 2 times, he's a minister, and you expect him to know better. You expect him to have ideas, because he also said he wants to be president. And of course, Peter Obi, for example, we are seeing him, put out data out there, statistics that cannot even be compared to what is actually realistic. Anytime you talk about issues, he's talking about Bangladesh, he's talking about China. China went back to China. These ideas, we need to have a kind of reorientation. Okay, we are not just talking. You see, when something works in China, does not mean it's going to work in Nigeria. Nigeria is a peculiar case. Whoever is coming to run Nigeria as a country must be someone with excellent ideas of how to get things done. However, in a country like Nigeria, change will not come easy. I'm not saying what this administration has done so far. I'm not, justifying anything they have done so far. What I'm trying to say, in essence, is that even as Nigerians, there are ways to go about things. There are ways we criticize, and then we are constructive about it. However, it is totally non-existent in a country like Nigeria. And you also mentioned something about achievement of Peter Obi as when he was governor. You see, the problem with Nigerians is, I think I mentioned this yesterday while I was on this desk with Oluwayemi Adelaku, that we forget easily as Nigerians. Okay, while Peter Obi was governor in Anambra State, they had probably the highest level of insecurity in that state. Okay, that was the era of Okija Shrine and some other shrines in Anambra State. And of course, we all knew what happened then. The issue of SARS. I want to remember this, but I will remember shortly. So a lot of extrajudicial killings happened during that period. I'm not saying it was caused by Peter Obi, but what I'm saying is we are quick to forget that even these things did not start today. Even in America that we are talking about, the UK that we are talking about, Russia, we are talking about China, we are talking about, they have these kind of, not as much, but then there are killings every day. People, just come, even in the UK, it's a knife battle. In the US, it's a gun battle. So it's, every country has peculiar cases of, even in America, we have had, attacks where school children were wiped out in a blink of an eye, where someone just woke up in the morning, took a gun to a school and opened fire.
They've shot at the president.
Even the White House was shot at. Okay? And the question now is, Yes, we want to emulate them in some areas, maybe economic buoyancy and stability in the country. But then it's not all that rosy in any country around the world. If you are talking about fuel price in Nigeria, you are complaining bitterly that fuel is expensive. Go to UK, it's also expensive there. The only difference is that maybe you could afford it more because of the standard of living, which I know that with time, if the right economic plan is put in place, we can actually get there. Its economy is not rocket science, as some people will say, but it is also rocket science, because it is one thing to formulate, ideas or policies. It's another thing to be able to implement it in your own country. Because one thing is, if you have a policy, for example, and your policy is not just something that can just stand up and start working in a day. There are incubation periods for any. There's no policy that has no incubation period. In fact, there are times that you have a policy that will only start being effective after 10 years. Why did we have, if not because of maladministration, misappropriation, and the lack of political will to get things done? Why did we have Vision 2020 when we had it? Right? Millennium Development Goals. Where are these things? It wasn't Tinubu that was president then, but we failed at that too. Let's be realistic and stop shifting goalposts and looking for who to blame. The idea is, okay, we are all Nigerians. Even this so-called set of leaders we have in the country, they are also Nigerians. They came from some family houses here. What exactly are you doing to make sure that you hold them accountable from where they are coming from? At least they are representing you. Okay? We now all want to blame the president for every and any problem, whereas you have lawmakers on the floor of the house who are not even making laws that will benefit you as an individual. So it's a multifaceted problem in the country. It's hydra-headed, as some will put it, but the problem is not Tinubu alone, right? The problem is everybody, including average Nigerians on the street. You go to Bodija market, for example, someone will tell you, because dollar is expensive, then tomato is also expensive. And then you can juxtapose that with what you get somewhere else, and you'll be like, why did you do this when someone else is doing this? Does it mean that this other person that sold to you, at a cheaper rate is not making profit? Some people are just naturally selfish. They are major destroyers of the economy by just knowingly or unknowingly acting on their own instinct to destroy the country and then lay the blame on someone else. But we can also chart a way forward. You look at all the political parties. Who are the new politicians that you have there? That this is the same set of people. He was a local government chairman. From there, he was a state house of assembly. From there, federal house of senator, became governor, became minister. These are the same set of people. They have refused to leave power. And some of them are even doing some sort of inheritance for their sons. They are placing them at strategic locations, positioning them to become your leaders tomorrow. And all you have to say is that, politics is a dirty game. I don't want to be a part of it. That means that the same set of people you are vilifying today, right, will produce the same set of people to now rule your own children tomorrow. If you fail to take the right steps today, look at the registration pattern for political parties in the country. APC as of today, maybe around 12.9 million or thereabout. PDP, 4.6 million. ADC, 1.6 million. Labour Party, 1.3 million. NDC has 700,000 as we speak. I don't know if it has increased by this morning. But what I'm trying to say in essence is that these are people that will come out to vote. Most of them are politicians. They go to party meetings. They go to different places. Rather than join them to do beer parlor discussions, why not pick up is it a must for you to join APC to now say you want to run for office? If you are acceptable within your community, you don't need a political party. We have seen politicians who were deprived of tickets in their political parties, and they left that major political party to a lesser known political, won an election and came back. So it's not about the party, because people make up the party. You have to stand up for yourself and defend what you think is right. So instead of talking about, Amechi lied, Peter Obi, lied, I think it is... it's unfounded at this time. We should talk about policies. We should talk about ideas. We should talk about how to move Nigeria forward as a country.
I think you've made a very valid point, and I think it's valid even for people who are on this side or on that side, but wherever you stand. I think it's also important that we say that oftentimes a lot of people have always jumped at people who maybe in a way criticize Peter Obi. and then they go the tribal way to say, oh yeah, there's a discoloration. It's a tribal. But this is also coming from Rotimi
You should be
Amaechi.
ready for dragging this.
So that's one of the points I want. I'm saying yes, I will.
Bullying on social media.
I know, but I'm also expecting that. Why don't you see it this way, that it means a lot if someone comes to criticize you. It means you are probably doing something, and you should keep doing it, especially if it is good, right? Keep doing or you work on what you're doing. I'm only saying that Rotimi Amaechi maybe is one of the few persons who has come out against Peter Obi, but obedience and every other supporters of Peter Obi should expect more. If you really know what it takes to be a leader, then you should not be afraid. You should not be scared. You should not jump at people. You should have developed a tough skin or a thick skin, or you have built stomach enough to stomach all of these things.
The annoying part of all of this is that if you are either Yoruba or Hausa or any other tribe and you criticize Peter Obi, it is because you don't like Peter Obi. You don't like that tribe that he belongs to. And if you are from his tribe, you are one of his kinsmen, you are regarded as a traitor.
Exactly, like that's called Rotimi Amaechi now.
That's the problem. We have added ethnical coloration, religious coloration to everything and anything we do in Nigeria. And no country grows on that basis. We have prayed for how many years? Since Nigeria got independence, for example, that's well over 60 years ago. And Nigerians have continued to pray every morning. You preach this morning, every other. They prayed. What has changed? It's not about prayer. All right? It's about the political will to get this throne. Majority, 99.9% of what can do for you, you will not do because you have common sense to get it done. All right? It is until you take that step that you now have prayer. Prayer is not the vehicle. Prayer is more or less like the fuel, right? That helps the vehicle to move. If you have no vehicle, if you like have 200,000 liters of petrol, you are going nowhere.
I think I like the analogy because I was going to say that, yeah, prayer is important as well because we understand that, well, for me, where I come from, we say, and it's true, that God has the heart of kings and princes, so he can turn it even when they don't want to do. But more importantly, I think prayer can work, but we beyond prayers too. We need people who can actually work. Yeah, we need people, because all of these things will work because there's somebody that should work it. If nobody is there and then we're just praying into the air, I mean, nobody's going to get anything done anyway. So instead of just praying, which is what we've done that right, and we're making a lot of sense in that, but much more so, can we engage more? Like you said, remember the registrants now for parties, you can see a lot of people are not partisans, a lot of people are not even interested in what is, they're not invested in politics, and they say, yeah, it's a dirty game. So if it's dirty, then you leave it dirty, and then your life, I don't want to say it will be dirty, because most likely that's what's going to happen if we sit aloof and just fold our arms and do nothing about this politics. I think someone once said it right, that the only way for evil to persist is that good men do nothing. And I know it's very important that we keep saying that people should go out not just to vote but also register, become a party member, become partisan, bear a card of a party, and if what you think they are professing or they are doing is not in tandem, I mean, you have a right to decamp, like they say. You have a right to move from one party to the other, or even form your own party and build it from scratch. Nigeria needs radical movement that could change a lot of things. Like you mentioned now, we've had all of these names are just recurrent. We've seen this name about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we've had these names on our lips. But and I'm not even against the names, I'm against what they have known to be truth. You know, because it's often, a lot of people talk about experience, but experience in what? If you say, yeah, we need leaders that are experienced, experienced in what? That's the question. Experience in what? In the political arena, in the politics of the polity of the Nigerian state? Yes, we need that too. But much more importantly, we need more experience in leadership. We need more experience in nation building. In fact, my point, and I'll make this and I'll drop the pen, this is what I have noticed ever since I've started talking about the cases in Nigeria, is that politics seems to be a distraction to governance and to nation building in Nigeria, and that is my opinion.
You see, shortly before we go, I discovered that Nigerians believe so much in prayer. You know, of course, everyone believes in it. It works only if you are doing something, because even the Bible said, you know, faith without work is amounts to nothing. All right, but I feel like Nigerian leaders, they understand the logic that you know, Nigerians feed on emotions. They love being emotional. Even when nothing is happening, they are already emotional. So each time the Nigerians declare prayers on things that common sense would solve, they just sit at the corner of their rooms and smile, like, yes, we are getting it. All right. What I'm trying to say in essence is that you see them when something happens in the country, something really, really bad happens. You see them, they will condemn the first time. Oh, we condemn this act. It is not something that should happen. It's barbaric, it's this, is that. And then when people are still talking, they condemn the second time. And by the third time, they will just tell you, let's pray that, this changes. And I mean, when common sense could have solved it. I will cite an instance. When the kidnapped victims, these are school children and, their educators were kidnapped in Hauru Esiele, in Orire local government. All right? You would expect that action will be taken before these people move farther than they moved when they kidnapped you would expect actions. You expect surveillance cameras to be everywhere. You would expect choppers to be flying above the forest. But then what happened? Everyone, it took the governor maybe 11 or 12 days before he could finally go there. When the Inspector General of Police was there, I think the next day, and the governor that was in Ibadan could not go there. And this same person even had his own presidential whatever before he went there. It shows that everybody, you are risking your life in this country. You should just, it's beyond what anyone can just define, because that's the kind of attitude you have towards human lives. It was important for you to get your presidential ticket than to go to Hauru Esiele to check what was going on there. On-site assessment. The governor is here. That will send, shivers down the spine of these people. But the governor chose to do some other things. Yes, I'm not saying he's not doing anything in his office, but it could have been better if he went there by himself. That restores confidence in the government, in the minds of the people. And even the presidency had to send a powerful delegation. Yes, we understand. After how many days? I think that is unreasonable. That's the attitude these people in government have towards human
the body language. And I think it's also important that what comes after the delegation is something that we are looking for. We don't just want a delegation to come and sympathize, empathize. If that is all they came to do, that's not enough. There are children there, children in the forest, and they are crying every day. I'm not sure those guys would have changed their clothes ever since. I'm not sure there's any of them will have taken their bath. These are kids. So they are what's it called now? Their nature. Oh, I'm trying to look for the right word.
I don't see any of those children recovering from this trauma. That's when they come back.
You talk about trauma. What about the disease? What about the insect that might have pegged on these kids? And a lot of things that could have happened to them internally, health-wise. How do you restore that? Because some of them, beyond I know the psychological aspect is also something to look at. But what about the health of this children? They're in the forest, they're in the bush, in the thick of the forest. There's no house there. There's no roof. There's been rains. For every time it rains, I was scared that, oh Jesus, this rain is going to get to somewhere where these people are. And so they are going to be inside the forest, under the rain, under the sun, when they are not even serving as core members who say under the sun or in the imagine what I'm trying to imagine the state of mind, the state of health of these kids, and all we have to do is for the governor to go there about over 10 days after, now, and then just to yes, I understand, I'm so sorry.
To wrap it up, and it's quite important to also note that we are not saying the government is not doing anything, but the attitude of just saying it with no action to back it up, stresses some of us, and puts us in the situation where we have had to think that what exactly is the government doing. Of course, that's why we're here. We ask questions, and if we don't ask questions, how do the people? Because this is the only way the people get to talk to the people in government. It is through the media, through other channels, and if this is all we can offer the Nigerian people, and I'm sorry to say that nobody is fit to be in government at this time, right? I think we need a change.
We need more.
If this is all we can offer the people, we left our goalpost unguarded, and see what is happening there. So it is now that you have now thought that there has to be a military base. It is now that you have the thought that there should be 1,000 forest guards in our bushes. It is now that you have the thought that you should do a follow-up on state policing. And the governor was even busy out there condemning the administration of President Bola Ahmed, talking about state policing, the framework, there is a bureaucratic bottlenecks. Is that all we need at this time?
Incapacitated.
If there is election, you know how many police officers follow these people about. But you are no longer chief security when it comes to security issues. You can now pass the blame to someone else. Nigerians should wise up. They will pass the blame, yes, but ask them further questions about why they failed. Are they not taking security votes? They are taking billions. In fact, go and check all the states in Nigeria with highest level of insecurity and see how much they take home. Some of them take more money on security votes more than they take on federal allocations. Go and check. Because it has been weaponized, it has been turned into a business, and people are feeding fat on it. And that's even the kind of money that you cannot scrutinize
account
them
for. Yes,
you cannot account them for. They will tell you security business is secret business.
Yeah.
And this is where we are. After spending all the money, this is where we are. Still insecure. It's a nice place to leave this topic this morning. And I will say thank you for being a part of the show so far. Let's take weather report on this show this morning and help you plan your day. And we'll be starting with the ancient city of Ibadan. And what does weather look like in Ibadan this morning? I think, in Ibadan this morning, it is a little bit chilly. And as we speak, it is at 25 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will rise by 4 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy with humidity at 7%. A promise of scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon as weather rises to 32 degrees Celsius and humidity rises drastically to 45%. It will be mostly cloudy in the evening as weather drops to 26 degrees Celsius, humidity at 5%. And overnight, there isn't too much difference as it drops to 25 degrees Celsius, humidity at 6%, and it will be mostly cloudy overnight too in the ancient city of Ibadan today.
And if you're watching us from Lagos, Lagos will have showers in the morning at 29 degrees Celsius. And that's what the weather will start with at 55% humidity in Lagos today. Then in the afternoon, 30 degrees Celsius, the weather will become mostly cloudy, still retaining about 23% humidity across board. And in the evening, a further drop to 28 degrees Celsius, dropping 2 degrees Celsius down to become cloudy at 19 degrees Celsius. And a further drop by just 1 degree Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius overnight will make the weather to become mostly cloudy at 8% in Lagos State today.
All right, away from Lagos, I think we'll take this one from Ogun, a neighboring state of to Lagos this morning. And let's see what the weather looks like in Ogun. It's Abeokuta to be precise, as it is most likely going to be similar to what we have in Lagos as we speak. And there isn't too much difference in that of Ibadan, Lagos, and that of Ogun. However, it is currently that chilly there, but we'll take this one from Port Harcourt, River State, as weather in Port Harcourt is currently at 22 degrees Celsius. It will rise further to 27 degrees Celsius later in the morning with promise of showers and humidity at 39%. It will maintain the same weather forecast in the afternoon as it will maintain 27 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy, humidity at 24%. In the evening, it will be mostly cloudy. It drops to 23 degrees Celsius, humidity at 7%. And overnight, it will drop further to 22 degrees Celsius. It will be foggy, and humidity will rise to 23% right there in Port Harcourt, River State today.
And from Port Harcourt now to the Federal Capital Territory, straight on to Abuja. 24 degrees Celsius is what the weather looks like. It feels like mostly cloudy across board. Then in the morning, 29 degrees Celsius is what it starts with in Abuja. Today, yes, it will be partly cloudy at 1% in the morning. Then in the afternoon, a rise to 32 degrees Celsius of about 3 degrees Celsius will then give isolated thunderstorms, promised also at 34% humidity. And in the evening, it drops back to 26 degrees Celsius, expected to be partly cloudy at 4% humidity. Then overnight, a further drop of 1 degree Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius will make the weather mostly cloudy at 15% humidity in Federal Capital Territory, Abuja today. All
right, away from FCT, we take this one from Suleja in Niger State. All right, in Suleja, as we speak, weather is currently at 24 degrees Celsius, and it will rise by 5 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius later in the morning, mostly cloudy, humidity at the bare minimum, and that's 1%. And by afternoon, rises further to 32 degrees Celsius with promise of scattered thunderstorms right there in Suleja as humidity rises to 37%. There will be a drop to 26 degrees Celsius in the evening. It will be partly cloudy, humidity at 4%. And overnight, it will be mostly cloudy as weather drops further to 25 degrees Celsius and humidity at 5% in Suleja, Niger State today.
And from Suleja now to Maiduguri, Borno State today, the weather would be sunny unlike every other southwestern state today. 29 degrees Celsius expected to be sunny across board. Then in the morning, 35 degrees Celsius whooping is what the weather will start with. Very sunny at 0% humidity today. And then a further increase to 39 degrees Celsius, about 4 degrees Celsius increase, will make it mostly sunny. Then it gets sunnier in the afternoon. But of course, in the evening, a drop down to 31 degrees Celsius, about 8 degrees Celsius drop. The weather will become mostly clear. And overnight, just a little drop as well to 29 degrees Celsius to make the weather partly cloudy at 1% in Maiduguri, Borno State today.
All right, we take this very one from Kano Municipal this morning as we speak. Weather is currently fair in Kano as it is at 28 degrees Celsius. It will rise by 4 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius later in the morning. It will be sunny with humidity at 0%, and it will rise by 5 degrees Celsius to 37 degrees Celsius in the afternoon as it will be partly cloudy. Humidity maintains 0%. It will be mostly clear in the evening as it drops to 30 degrees Celsius and humidity will be at 1%. Overnight, it will be partly cloudy, humidity at 4% as it drops further to 27 degrees Celsius right there in Kano today. And that's all we can take on Weather Report this morning. We say thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do not forget to link up with us on all socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. Watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Do well to drop your comment on our Facebook page at Dominion Broadcast Television, and of course, do that too on our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast. All right, we'll go on a quick break now. I will return and we'll look at our Kwaido who will take you through the news this morning. We'll be back.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram at Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television, Ibadan. I am Anu Oluwapo Idowu. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has expressed condolences to families affected by the abduction of pupils and teachers in the Orire local government area of your state, describing the incident as painful and unacceptable. In a statement, the president shares in the grief and anxiety of families following the attack on communities in Esiele and Yawata. Tinubu also sympathized with the family of teacher Michael Oyedokun, who was killed in the attack, assuring that his sacrifice would not be forgotten. The president further assured that rescue efforts would continue through coordinated and intelligence-driven operations aimed at securing the safe release of the abducted victims. Protests have spread across Oyo and Ogun states over the continued captivity of pupils and teachers abducted from schools in Orire local government area of Oyo State. In Ibadan, members of the Take It Back movement, teachers, students and resident state demonstrations demanded the immediate release of the victims and stronger measures to tackle insecurity. Similar protests were also held in Abeokuta, where residents called for improved protection of schools and communities. The protests followed the May 15th abduction of dozens of pupils and teachers in Hauro, Isiele, and Yawata communities. The incident also claimed the life of a teacher, Michael Oyedokun, further fueling public outrage. Meanwhile, public schools across Oyo State remained shut following an indefinite strike by the Nigerian Union of Teachers (NUT) as security agencies continue efforts to rescue the victims. Troops of the 12th Brigade Nigerian Army have rescued 32 kidnapped victims following an attack by suspected bandits along the Ayegunle-Bunu Road in Kababunu local government area of Kogi State. This was contained in an operational report made available to newsmen in Abuja. The report said the assailant had escaped before the arrival of troops, who found 2 bodies, 5 injured victims, 2 commercial buses, and a truck abandoned along the roadside. The troops then launched a pursuit operation, forcing the kidnappers to abandon 23 captives. The injured were evacuated to St. Joseph Hospital in Kaba for treatment, while security operations continue in the area. Osun State government has approved the disbursement of over 204.2 million naira as death benefit to the next of kin of civil servants who died in active service. The funds were presented in Osogbo, where the head of service, Elder Yoleye Aino, represented the governor at the check distribution ceremony. According to the state government, the payment includes over 125.6 million naira for state-level beneficiaries and about 78.6 million naira for local government beneficiaries. Governor Ademola Adeleke reaffirmed this administration's commitment to workers' welfare, noting that over 882 million naira has been paid in death benefit since 2023, while pledging continued support for pensioners and families of deceased workers. At least 5 people have been injured in a multiple vehicle accident at the toll gate area of the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway in Ogun State. The Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Corps, TRACE, said the crash involved a truck, 6 cars and 2 tricycles, affecting 11 people. TRACE spokesperson Babatunde Akimbiyi attributed the accident to excessive speeding and brake failure, noting that the truck driver lost control before ramming into other vehicles. 3 of the injured victims were taken into the General Hospital in Ota for treatment, while traffic flow has since been restored after the damaged vehicles were cleared from the scene. And now in business, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) recorded a sharp rise in revenue in April 2026, posting nearly 5 trillion naira, up from about 2.7 trillion naira in March. According to the company's latest financial reports, profit after tax also increased significantly to 481 billion naira, while crude oil production rose to 1.68 million barrels per day. NNPC said it remitted over 3.7 trillion naira in statutory payment to the federal government between January and April. The company also reported progress on major gas infrastructure projects, although it noted delays in affecting the Trans-Ramos pipeline due to technical challenges. And now in sport, Nigeria's under-17 women's team, the Flamingos, have advanced to the final qualifying round of the 2026 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup after an emphatic 11-0 aggregate victory over Guinea. The Flamingos sealed qualification with a 6-0 second leg win in Ikene, having recorded a 5-0 victory in the first leg. Oluwakemi Adegboye and Captain Amoni Chidi scored twice, while Queen Joseph and Precious Oscar also found the net. Following the victory, Kunle Soname rewarded the team with 4.5 million naira, fulfilling his pledge of 750,000 naira each for each goal scored. The Flamingos will now face the Benin Republic in the final qualifying round. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can follow us on our website www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. And also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and X at Dominion Cast. And that ends Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Anu Oluwapo Edo. Thank you for watching.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram at Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
I think one of the major headline stories today across the newspapers, it's about the protest. Protests in Oyo, protests in Ogun, and many other parts of the country. The Take It Back movement yesterday were in Oyo State protesting for the release of the abducted victims in Owerri local government. And that's one of the conversations, particularly the high points of the conversations today on the newspapers. Welcome to this segment of newspaper headlines and analysis, where we check into the print and bring you stories that are breaking and developing right from the scenes. Of course, I'll take the Punch newspaper for one. And it has that big caption, the boldest inscription on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. It's about school abductions. And it says, protest in Oyo, Ogun, as NUT, that's Nigerian Union of Teachers, begins nationwide rally today. There was a circular yesterday about that particular development. But now, Oyo public schools shut as chief security officers demand abductees release. Ogun residents fear spill over. So that's why you might want to say, but that happened in Oyo State. Why do we have protests also in Ogun State? It is the fear of spillover. And nobody can really say, because it seems like this that used to be a distant reality has become so near, and it's now something experienced by everybody in the country. So whether or not you always believe insurgency, banditry, kidnapping was a distant fear, now I think they have brought it closer. And that's why many persons are saying this is unacceptable. 2-year-old children, 4-year-old children in the bush for how many days? How do you expect them to survive? Even after the aftermath of this might not even be palatable for them. And that's why many persons have taken to the street to say no to this menace, no to this thing that is unacceptable in our country. We understand there are different conversations, from the state government trying to say one or two, and then the federal government sending delegations, and a lot of things are happening. But the question is, how do we go from here, or where exactly do we move from here? Because we now understand the situation is not so nice. People are in the forest for days and weeks, and you might want to say, what if it was you? Then you have to also be involved in this one way or the other. And that's why a lot of persons are raising questions and probably asking the federal government and the state government and the military to do everything possible to get these kids back. And the question again would be, is it that's impossible to do? I don't know, because we've seen situations where, remember, someone was asking questions, do we have all the Chibok girls back? And it's a question that still remains untold, because now the situation has been the same for some of them. They've been left there, forsaken, deserted with the terrorists. Some of them have even given birth, and that's the situation. We do not want the same repeat of that. We don't want a repeat of that. We don't want the same situation to also happen again in this country. I mean, if there's any time to say no to this menace of banditry, of kidnapping, I think it is now. And I think it's very important that we highlight that particular story. On the Punch newspaper, the boldest caption is about protests in Oyo, Ogun, as NUT rallies, strikes, or today. I mean, that's all of one conversation. The nationwide rally or strike, as you might have it indefinite, is still right there. Something to pick up on the Punch newspaper. Meanwhile, a further look into the Punch newspaper this morning will take us to NCDC launches 21-day Ebola watch for exposed travelers. That's about the new variant of Ebola, and a lot of persons are still saying we need to make sure the borders are so secure, because neighboring countries and maybe some other countries, like for example particularly the DR Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, is where a good number of these suspected cases are coming from, and we know we have to tighten our borders and secure them as much as we can. Quarantine for a good number of travelers from those regions is also important. That's what the NCDC has come out to say. Meanwhile, petrol price soars 643% in 3 years. That's according to the Punch newspaper. A report on the page 9 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Now, 2020 Post is also on the Punch newspaper, and this time around it says CBN targets 2.8 trillion naira cash in private hands. CBN targets 2.83 trillion naira cash in private hands. That's also a story you might want to catch up on the Punch newspaper this morning. Nigeria's blackout persists despite $3.6 billion World Bank loans. That's a report also on page 24 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Nigeria's blackout persists despite $3.6 billion World Bank loans. That's also something to look out for today. Federal government scraps 3-month terminal leave for civil servant. federal government scraps 3-month terminal leave for civil servant. Page 7 is where to find that story. Again, I'll switch my focus away for one of time to the Daily Sun newspaper today to see what the daily newspaper has in details this morning. And it's on the front page: bloodbath in Plateau, Anambra, Kogi and Niger. Very, very sad and unfortunate this morning. Traditional ruler, 8 others killed, 10 injured in fresh Plateau attacks. Gunmen killed 2 policemen in Anambra, and in Kogi, 2 die in soldiers masqueraders clash. Another killed gunman abduct 30. Oh geez. Head of vigilante die as joint security task force kills over 200 terrorists. Also, you find that under the subwriter of the bloodbath in Plateau, Anambra, Kogi, Niger caption. Now, Oyo abduction is also on the Daily Sun newspaper. Public schools grounded as teachers comply with strike. Massive protest in Ibadan and Abeokuta. And that's what we have on the Daily Sun this morning. ADC primary is also represented on the front page. It says Babachir Lawal resigns, accused party Atiku of manipulating presidential primary. Ayatuddin rules out court action, calls for united opposition. Of course, there was also a conversation about that yesterday, that Atiku had a closed-door meeting with Ayatuddin, and maybe that's exactly why there seems to be no dust raised right there. There seems to be no ruffled feathers in that particular climb. Meanwhile, Babachir has said that, you know what, there was party manipulation during the presidential primary that brought in Atiku. And that's also a conversation, maybe not so funny. But of course, we move on from that particular story. Wike mocks opposition over primary crisis in parties. That's also something to look out for today. And ex-Senate President Wabara urges Nigerians to unite against bad leadership. NUPRC operations short as oil workers begin strike over stoppage of foreign training. That is also a story you might want to check out today. Tinubu hails Nigerian Navy as Africa's most formidable maritime force, commissions 3 new vessels. Page 7 of the Daily Sun newspaper this morning. Of course, there's also one story that broke out on the internet yesterday when Ayo Fayose was speaking to the issue, the alleged issue of, and it was alleging that maybe that event was actually sponsored, was instigated, by some people who connived together to make it happen. And of course, if you want to get details, probably check online. There are a lot of videos circulating over the internet, but I can't verify that, and that's why I'm not putting it into print. But of course, we'll have to check out and keep tabs on many of these stories as they break much further. I'll take a swipe away from the Daily Sun newspaper now to Vanguard newspaper this morning. And Vanguard has in details: protest rock Oyo, Ogun over abduction of teachers and students. That's on the front page of Vanguard newspaper this morning. Schools shut as teachers, CSOs protest in Oyo. Ogun residents protest, demand urgent government action. NUT to embark on nationwide protests today. Says students being used as shield by terrorists. Muslim Congress demands immediate rescue of victims. And Borno residents slam federal government silence over 42 abducted students. That is one story you might want to see. As you can see the picture right at the down part of the Vanguard newspaper, the front page has the picture of the protest, people coming out en masse saying bring back our children and their teachers. That's exactly one of the placards as it reads from that protest. It's saying lives matter, their lives matter, and a lot more caption to find out from the protest. We'll also bring you development as we track it much further as the protests continue today across many parts of the state. Meanwhile, Ocean calls emergency meeting over border school safety. And that's on page 10. Also, it seems like Southwest State are now gathering momentum and are preparing to get ready for, maybe not for the evil thing, but just to forestall or to curtail or to curb this menace before it gets to their region. And we pray that, yes, security will be the order of the day, of lives and of property as well in the country, Nigeria. Now, taking other stories, Atiku, ex-SGF, Bika, over outcome of ADC presidential primary. That's about the 2027 election. Talking Atiku, talking ADC, talking the party, Hayatuddin, and of course Babachir Lawan. A good number of persons as well in that frame. Meanwhile, court terrorist arms supply end attack, say northern Christians. Of course, we might want to ask the question really, because it's a very, very, very serious question. It's a very valid and logical question to ask. You say, how do these people get their ammunition? Except there's any other way that it comes through the ground or underground, because I'm not seeing that happen. They have to have flown some of these machineries, because we see in the videos some of the equipment that these people wield, you know, the arsenal they have, and then you wonder, how did they get this moved from wherever they moved it from into the thick of the forest? How do they have this? I'm so sure there's someone who is in power who knows about this, because there's no way you want to infiltrate that much supply of ammunition to these people in this forest without it getting to one border or one checkpoint or the other. And I think maybe if we cannot even boast of that, I think it's high time we deploy security and intelligence to check vehicles that are coming from certain places, and maybe even aircraft as well, to check and have a scanner to scan if there are equipment that are like firearms in those kind of carriages and luggages and all of that. So I think it's high time we develop a higher level of security architecture in terms of technology, deploying technology to where it should be, to be able to trace if there are people who are supplying these people with ammunition, with bullets, because they need all of that. They don't make it in the forest. That's what I know. They have to have moved it from one place to the other. And I think that's why a lot of persons are still saying that there's a lot of misinformation in how we have all of this development in the country. Meanwhile, I'll also take some other stories still on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. We're working to rescue kidnapped retired Major General Abubakar, and that's coming from the Defense Headquarters. Also this morning, that's on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning, as you can find that story as well. About Middle East war, Iran suspend talks with US over Israel attacks in Lebanon. That's also a conversation, page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper is where that story would be for you to catch up on. Saraki versus Turaki, PDP crisis escalates in Kwara, produces 2 governorship candidates. Page 29 is where to catch up with that Saraki versus Turaki story on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. For one of time, I'll take the last story, or the last few stories coming from the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And the front page says, Babachir quits ADC, alleges Atiku's primary win rigged. That's one conversation you might find on many prints today. Page 15 is where to catch up on that particular story. Claims ex-vice president is a religious and tribal bigot. That is a claim and allegation coming from him. He's a notorious conflict entrepreneur, not qualified to speak what is good about Nigeria. Published load of garbage. That's coming from Atiku. So there's a reprisal, there's a statement, there's a counter statement, and so of course that's expected anyway. But of course we'll also keep tabs on this and see what will happen in the course of time. Nigerian Tribune has taken interest in the Oyo abduction story, and it says public schools shut. Protest in Ibadan, Abeokuta. Protesters at Oyo State Secretariat vow to sustain advocacy until kidnapped victims regain freedom. In fact, there were videos yesterday circulating all over the internet of people protesting while the rain was pouring so heavily on them. And then they said, we are not going to back down. We are not going to compromise. We are going to stand until our demands are met. And that demand is quite simple. Bring back the girls and their teachers, and the boys as well, the children and their teachers. And that seems to be the claim right there of the people that are protesting. Troops rescue 23 abductees in Kogi, and government kill 8 injures 10 in Plateau community. And yeah, our church massacre is also on the conversation today. Court delivers judgment tomorrow. All eyes, all ears on ground to see what becomes of these and many other stories. But one time, we might need to shelve this edition of the newspaper headlines and analysis and move on to the next segment, which is the big story with Samson Balogun. Stay with us and don't go nowhere.
live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Alright, good morning and welcome to the big story. And this is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. In today's digital age, information is no longer just a tool for communication. It is power. From government institutions and political actors to media organizations, social media platforms, and private interests. The battle over who controls information has become one of the defining issues of our time. And as Nigerians increasingly rely on various sources for news and public affairs, questions emerge. Who decides what we know? Who shapes the narratives we consume? And what are the implications of democracy, accountability, and public trust? Today, on The Big Story, we examine the theme, when access becomes power, who really controls information in Nigeria? And to help us unpack this critical conversation, I am joined by veteran journalist and senior editor of the Nigerian Tribune, Sam Nwoko. And we say thank you to him for joining us on this show this morning.
Thank you very much.
Right. Okay, very quickly before I bring Sam Nwoko on board. Access to information has always been important, but never before has it been as influential as it is today. In a world driven by instant updates, viral content, and competing narratives, those who control information often shape public opinion, political outcomes, and even national conversations. Yet, information control is not always obvious. It can come through ownership of media platforms, government regulations, algorithms, economic influence, or the strategic release of withholding of facts. As we explore these subjects today, we will ask whether Nigerians truly have access to independent and reliable information, and what can be done to ensure that information remains a tool for empowerment rather than manipulation. Sam Nwoko, good to join us in the studio.
Good to be here. Good morning, viewer.
Information has been the bedrock of a sane society, if there's anything like that. And during the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan administration, there was a particular bill that eventually became an act, which is the Freedom of Information Act. But since then, we have seen the information space in Nigeria evolve from what we used to know as private, public media institutions owned by the state government and federal government, to the advent of, and of course influx into the industry of private media station owners who invested heavily in that. There used to be heavy investment in the print, where even the major stakeholders in Nigeria invested in print media. And then it evolved to the era of social media, where a narrative by an influencer will be seen and of course heard at every nook and cranny of Nigeria. Recently, let me just cite this very quickly before I ask you this question. Recently, a particular young man in Ogun State posted about terrorists invading a community in Ogun State. He was just a tailor, fashion designer. And then all of his, because he was looking for clicks, he was looking for likes, he just posted something that he didn't even know. He didn't even know the community. He just posted something. And it was picked up. This has been the trend we have been seeing. Series of fake messages out there, fake news. How did we get here?
Thank you. A whole lot of things to unpack. When we begin to consider the advent of media in private hands, some of us will readily remember when Ray Park, with all due respect to mention, when private radio stations began, it began to show that there would be revolution in that aspect of our national life. And with time, we began to see private television station. The very first one, when it came during the military era, and it was very popular. Then another one came, and before you know it, in the 1993, 94, 95, 96 era, it became a trend. More and more people began to, there was one in Onitsha, there was one in 2 or 3 in Lagos, and so on and so forth. And then it came to Ibadan. And today, we have them nearly everywhere. Same thing with the social media. The social media now came and became a total revolution, a total change from the norm which we were used to. However, when we look at it from the two worlds where we live in now, those of us who are social media tenants, because we are already grown before social media came.
Okay. Some people were born into social media.
So social media indigenes are the people who were born after the phones and so on. So they see things differently from the way we see them. And those of us who are older and who are already made, by made I mean who have attained the age of reason before this
certain level of intelligence.
Yes, so we see things differently from how our children see them. So that difference has laid the foundation. So now everything depends on the social media mostly. On the internet you can find anything. I was discussing with my daughter this morning because I was writing a paper. And while I was writing, everything I was doing was right there on the laptop. I was just clicking. You see the source, rather than go to the library, sit down with a pile of books and make your references the way we did it when we were in our undergraduate days. So I now told her, I said, the difference is so very much now. Before now, we used to consult books. You will be forced to read those books. You have things in your head and so on. I said, but now you can just click straight to that which you want, and it will give you everything. That she said that when she wrote her own long essay, her project, the lecturer had to force her to say, okay, even if it is 2 or 3 physical books, consult them, use them, let's see, and so on. So that tells you the different worlds in which we live. Now we have come to this place now. Artificial intelligence has added to the entire gamut. It has been added to the entire gamut. What it now means is that you have to take time to sieve information to be able to know exactly that which is useful to the society, which is useful to you, and even helpful to the country you live in. So it's very important that now that we are here, we must begin to, educate people that not everything you see online, not everything you see on the internet and perhaps read, not everything is true. And the make-believe, what we thought was make-believe, is now believe, because they are now extricable, they are now tangible. You can now see them, they are very much in use. So we have to be very, very careful, because information flies around so much.
When we talk about information control, who are the major players?
The major players are the, I wanted to say the government, but government is one huge major player. Then people who have the resources are also major players. By resources, I mean the means of providing media, controlling the media. Once you are able to break into that circle, you control what you give out. Let me cite one personal example. When I was the correspondent of the Nigerian Tribune in Port Harcourt, this was in year 2002. The Nigerian Tribune is a member of the ABC. ABC is Audit Bureau of Communication. What they do is, the newspapers collaborate. So if papers are going to Kano, instead of you to put your own paper differently in your vehicle and drive to Kano, you gather your papers, the newspaper proprietors who belong to ABC, Audit Bureau of Communication, Circulation, sorry, Audit Bureau of Circulation. It's not communication. Audit Bureau of Circulation. So the newspapers which belong to the Audit Bureau of Circulation will come together and book a flight. So one flight will carry all the papers to Kano, all the papers to Port Harcourt, all the papers to Enugu, and so on and so forth. So one day, the papers for the Nigerian Tribune arrived in Port Harcourt, and he came with an instruction. You know, the usual thing is, I'll go receive, the salesman will receive the papers, then he will distribute. I'll do the storytelling. But somebody called me, somebody who has the means to control the media. He called me, said, all the papers that are landing, he wanted to buy off everything at the airport. I said, how is that possible? He said, just make it possible. He's a very big man in this country. I won't even say the business he does. I said, how am I going to do that? He said, just do it. It's important. I said, what's in the paper? He wouldn't tell me. So I had to call all the major papers he wanted. The papers he thought had the story he was trying to prevent. So he called the Nigerian Tribune. He called all the other papers that are major national newspapers, about 7 of us, and he said, how many papers we got? The circulation paper is already there. You see the number of paper that has been circulated. Even the complimentary copies that were meant for me, he said, I'm paying for everything. And he did. He paid for everything, and we loaded it in his vehicle, and he said I should follow him. I followed him to his house in GRA in Port Harcourt, GRA Phase 1, the old GRA in Port Harcourt. And he said, oh yeah, we are going to burn all these papers. He didn't even let me to open them. I said, there might be letters in this thing, so open them. You can take them to the room. Don't let me see. Open them. And lo and behold, there were letters, there were notices, there were even some instructions for the correspondence and so on. So he gave me those ones. And then he brought out the papers and we began to burn. We burnt those papers that night.
He paid for all.
He paid for everything. But I managed to steal one, with all due respect. I stole one because I was so curious.
It was necessary for you to know why you had to do that. I just couldn't
help myself. I needed to know why this is happening. And so he has the power to control the media. He bought everything. So all the salesmen did was just record 100% sales. Sold. And it was good for them, but it wasn't good for me because I needed to know. And because of that, I had to steal one of the papers. Just one. That's what I was only able to steal one of the newspapers. I couldn't even steal the Nigerian Tribune because he had his boys all around the place. So that is somebody who has power to control the media. And he is not in government. He's just rich and powerful. So if an individual who is rich and powerful can do that, imagine what the government can do.
Okay, now that it's crystal clear who the powerful players can be when it comes to controlling of narratives, is it safe to say that the government is doing enough to control what the people are being fed out there in terms of information?
The government is doing its bit. one of the things I know government is doing is that when information is not favorable and they don't want it out, they will block it. And they are doing enough of that already, because the current government in power is, the president is a media owner. He's very powerful in the media, and one of his ministers uses the media so very much. He buys media
organizes media parties.
Yeah, he organizes media parties, and he does that very often. He had been doing it since he was the governor. You know who I'm talking about, the Minister of FCT. So all those things you are seeing are means of controlling the media. And then don't forget that the underlying, the foundational reason for this media control as it is the economy. When the economy is not favorable, it's possible for you to fall for certain things. And when the economy bites so hard as to you, so much that you can see your business crumbling before your very eyes, you will do one or two things to be able to say, okay, I want to sustain this business.
That's where I'm actually going when it comes to reporting.
Yes.
If a reporter does his job without influence, he tends to tell the story from his own angle, the way he sees it. But if an individual who has the capacity to control the media gets a hand on that, he gets to change the narrative, and that might lead to misinformation, malinformation,
misinformation, and so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth.
Yes.
And is there ever a way to make sure that, you know, even no matter how much influence comes in, there's still a way to push a correct narrative out there?
Yeah, there are correct narratives.
Because now, obviously, you mentioned something about buying the media, sort of. It's not actually saying, oh, I want to buy you. It's you paying for services. And now you get to push your own narrative. At least when UK has his own media pally, nobody tells you what he says. He says it as he wants it, meaning that he has found a way to control the narrative.
Yes. Okay. Now, there's one thing that is not always in the air. It's not always out there. It is very difficult for anybody to expunge bias in whatever we do. There is always the person, that's you, in what you write. Sometimes you may be right. In fact, sometimes when I write my columns, I will laugh. My daughter will say, well, what is this time? I will read the paragraph. She will also laugh. Because I am imputing myself, I'm bringing my experiences.
You are appearing in those lines.
Yes, in those lines, in those words I write. Sometimes I will just muse at it and so on. Because I like light-hearted writing. And when I do it, I will laugh. Sam Levinson in his book says that his father, the man Sam Levinson, is a comedian. He was a comedian, and he was a very fantastic comic writer. He said one of the lessons he learned from his father is that you should laugh at your own jokes, so that even if others don't laugh, when they see you laughing and happy, they will join you in your happiness. So it happens to me. I'm sometimes like, this is happening. Now I'm thinking of what to write. I've laughed at a few things, and I'm already beginning to, form an opinion on what I'm going to write. Where I'm going to now is this, to answer your question. It is very difficult not to control what you see out there. If you, the writer, who went to the field to witness an event, if you do not control it, no, it's not even that. If you would have put your own, the editor will tell you, no, put it this way. No, before the editor, the sub-editor who will read your script will say, okay, let's change these words to this and things like that. He will reframe it. If there are things he wants removed, he will remove them. And at that time, you have no powers over what he is doing. Yours is to submit the story. That's what the instruction says. Write your story and leave it and go. If it comes out tomorrow, or if it's aired, it's to your credit. If it is not aired, it's also there. Now, when these things are done, at that chain, as the chain goes, when these things are done, at the reportorial level, at the sub-editing level, at the editorial level itself, and the editorial level is where the approvals are given. And then to air it is also one or two other things could come up. How does this happen? In newspapers, I have written stories, even at my level, and my editor will say, no,
it's
now.
not flying.
You say, no, now. I will just, even when he wants to be magnanimous, he will write hold. He will just write HOLD on it. And you know that hold means killed. So control is at every level. Now, who controls more? It could be the owner. In our own organization, there are stories we don't even bother to write.
Because you know where it
because we know where it will end up. So there are controls of the narratives every point of the way, up to government, up to your advertisers, up to your clients, up to members of the board, and so on and so forth. So these things happen, but even at that, the truth is that the accountant will tell you that there are 3 types of accounts. The one you want the world to see. The one you want the owners of the company to see, and the true account. So those 3 are always there, and when those 3 are there, then it means that there is a control from various angles.
So how much damage has reliance on details and information on new media has it done to the information industry?
Damage. Well, if the country is still running and the society is still on its feet, then I wouldn't know about damage. Okay. Because I'm in the media and you are also in the media. So whatever damage that happens is now subject to the interpretation of the other person. For me, it may not be a damage because I'm controlling the damage that would have happened to me and my organization and my clients and my listeners and my viewers and my friends, well-wishers and so on. Then you are damaging the other side. There are some stories I will say, no, I can't use this story. I can't, because it is not that I cannot write the story. You cannot be so, the media theories. I think there are 3 media theories or 4. One of them is that the government wants absolute control. Some is that they want freedom. They can write anything they like and so on. Even at that, you can't still write anything you like, because I know of one of the members of that school of thought whose wife tore his script. And he loves his wife so much that he had to withdraw from pursuing that story. So all I'm trying to say is that you cannot talk about damage when the community is still standing. You cannot talk about damage when it is not the media that is creating the problem itself. So the control might be that, okay, you want an equilibrium in the society. You want the society not to, one of the duties of the media, a certain agenda and helping to maintain law and order in the society. So some of those roles, you play them sometimes inadvertently without knowing that you are doing those things. Because when somebody reads something and forms an opinion, it is because you have done something about it and you have exerted some form of control. So to me, I don't always see damage as damage, but I see some kind of control at work at various levels.
Now, you mentioned something earlier that sometimes when you write, you see yourself in some of these stories you write.
Yes.
I mean, your opinion.
Yes.
And you can't totally eradicate or remove that from what you put.
Yes, I admit
what you write.
Yeah.
And talking about setting an agenda, shaping opinions of the people, of course, that would be take precedence, because when people read what you write, automatically some of them might be digesting your own opinion, which of course shapes what they see, how they see things differently. Now, if you look at the media space right now, shaping opinions, have we really done enough in terms of what we give the people out there to see?
It depends on what the people are given. Yes, media has shaped opinions. Media has created so much for people to learn from, that you have left the people with enough, you have stuffed the people with so much information. Unlike what we have now, where you have AI, people can just click and create images and so on. At the snap of a finger, things can be done. Before now, people take what they read in newspapers. I took what I read in newspapers, hook, line, and sinker. In fact, I remember one day my mother had to stand up to me. She, then I had grown, I was out of secondary school. But the question she asked me was, why must you buy newspapers every day? Because when they give me money, I'll keep 50 kobo with it. In fact, when newspaper was 30 kobo, I remember when Vanguard started, our neighbor then was buying Vanguard. So I would buy Tribune because I loved Tribune from childhood. I didn't know why. So I would buy Tribune. Later I began to buy, because of Ngozi Anyegbunam, Dr. Ngozi Anyegbunam, she used to write a column. I loved the way she wrote. Then Tayo Awutu, the guy that died in Liberia. So I started to buy Champion. But my mother one day said, why don't you keep your money for some other things so that you can use your money to, for some more reasonable things, according to her. But for me, that was the reasonable thing then. So one day she asked me, are you now competing with Chief Akinshola, our neighbor? I said, how can I be competing with you? He said, okay, why would Chief Akinshola buy a paper and you will also buy it? Why not go and read the one he had bought? So it left me in a dilemma. The dilemma is that my mother has controlled me. Because I saw reason in what she was saying. But at the same time, I want to also carry my own newspaper and so on. But the newspaper itself gave me a lot. I cannot handle his paper the way I would have handled mine, right, and so on. So the things I read in those newspapers, including people like Baba Femi Ojudu and this same Bayo Onuga today that is now somebody else, all those things shaped the way I reasoned until when I graduated from the university and began to see things differently. When I became independent and knew what it meant to sustain, to live and pay rent and buy things and so on. So I began to temper my, what do I call it now, my thinking, and begin to reason like somebody who has one or two other things controlling him outside the opinions shared in the newspaper.
Okay, now some say if you could change a thing about Nigeria's information ecosystem, what would that be?
The first thing I will try to do is to change the enabling environment. We have enough laws. We don't need laws anymore. We have enough laws. Even the old laws were enough. The only new thing is that find a way to bring in the fact that we are now in an information age, IT age, information technology age, and then we have to modify our laws to fit into that. But apart from that, what I want changed is how the economy affects what we consume in the media. That's the thing I would like to change, because they have made it so difficult for media houses to survive, that they now have to sometimes bend to be able to survive, so which is not good.
Will Nigeria's democracy improve if people have access to credible and reliable information?
Yeah, it will, because people will learn more. There will be more information and more better information, not information from everywhere, not the kind of like now. One of the most consumed source of information is TikTok. Everybody will watch videos. You see some will be shouting and telling you, the government has done this, and without the right information being passed. So if better environment is created, some of these things could be controlled.
Trust in information sources got eroded or declined over time. What would you say that can be done right now to, instill such trust in the people again to believe in what they see out there?
Yes.
Because you just mentioned what could be done to make sure that we have, the kind of information that we want.
I will not call for further control of the media to be able to build trust. That will be leading us to China and to North Korea and to Afghanistan. No, not any more of control. But we need.
So as it is opened, it favors Nigerians.
Yes, it favors Nigerians, because you see, when people have the right environment, they will be able to sieve the information by themselves. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. They will be able to sieve the information by themselves, in the sense that when they know that what they are seeing does not tally with what happens in the society, then they will ask questions. And in the course of asking questions, they will arrive at the right answers. So that's how I look at it. Because the right environment will include improved economy. And when you talk about improved economy, when inflation is at a relatively controllable, when inflation does not exact so much on people, people will not worry so much as to begin to find solace in some very volatile content, which helps them to find comfort in letting out their anger and frustration on some people or the other. But when the right information is out there and the right the right environment is provided, you see that people will say, no, this thing is not true, because I was here and I saw this, I was there and I saw that. The difference will be there. It will evolve by itself, because trust died when government began to tell lies, when government began to do propaganda. Even the church,
to spin narratives,
to bend narratives, and to create false narratives. The word propaganda started, it's a Latin word used by in fact, propaganda fidei is the origin of this thing we call propaganda today. The Catholic Church started propaganda fidei. Propaganda is spread. Fidei, faith. Spread the faith. That's what the church started. So the word gained grounds, and propaganda. Now when you hear propaganda, you think negative. But when it started, because one of the things the church used was to use propaganda fidei to encourage people during the Nazi occupation of many places, including Poland and so on. And we are using that to spread the faith, to say, be of good cheer. This will not last forever, and things like that. So now the government has taken over, and the word has become something else. When you check the word propaganda now, you see that it's
not even what it is intended to be.
The original meaning of propaganda is propaganda fidei, spread the faith, and so on. So all I'm trying to say is that to take control of propaganda, when there is the right environment, when you go out there and think you see the road is good, and the petroleum, the taxi driver does not buy petrol at 1,350 naira, and he will vent the anger on the passenger. When these do not happen, then you see that both the driver and the passenger will be at peace. And when anybody, fifth columnist comes and says, petrol is bad, they will say, no, petrol is not bad, because I just bought petrol and it is not. The passenger will say, no, the driver is not charging me extra because he bought very expensive petrol. There will be balance, and the truth and trust will come by themselves, and they will evolve and begin to live with the people naturally. Everything boils down to how the government does its
creating
things.
An environment.
Create the environment, and there will be trust, and media will also key into that, because we all belong to the society.
All right, Sam Woko, thank you for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for
having an eye-opening session with you. And thank you for always being here to shed light on some of these important topics we discuss on the show.
Thank you.
All right, it has been a wonderful session with Sam Woko in the studio of Dominion, Dominion Television, Ibadan. And of course, as you all know, information is key. It is power, and definitely it shapes narratives and thinking of the people out there. And do well to make sure that you are not the fifth columnist like Sam Woko mentioned earlier. Just put the right information out there. And to the government, creating an environment that helps the people filter the truth by themselves is very, very important. Samson Balogun is my name, and this has been the big story on Dominion Television. Keep being good out there. Keep being safe. Up next is Trend Watch.
With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Casts. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
And thank you for staying with us, of course, on Daybreak Live today. It's been a wonderful time having conversations, different outlook and maybe perspective on different issues. But now we switch over to the trend watch to see what's trending across the country. One thing that is trending, I mean, everywhere, if you check the papers, is about your school abduction. And this, of course, you understand why that should trend, because we want the girls and the children. I mean, I'm saying girls. Why am I saying girls? We want the girls and the boys and their teachers back. And that's one thing that is paramount to everybody. But away from that now, Nigerian Union of Teachers, that's NUT, in Abuja announces venue for protests. Of course, there's been protests. Even yesterday, Ogun State joined also, and many other states are also preparing. Osun State is trying to beef up security in their borders and all of that. But something, there's also a part of the conversation that former Governor Ayo Dele Fayose came out to say that government is complicit, I think in your words as well. Government is complicit to the whole issue that is happening. But of course, we also heard a lot of people say that if terrorism or any banditry situation can happen in the country for 24 hours, that there must have been someone who knows about it.
That was General Sani Abacha.
Exactly. So you can almost tell that there's a sense in what you have said. Others have come out to say, yeah, you should not have said it that way. But I mean, the truth has to be said anyway, Samson.
Well, you see, we just spoke about information, freedom of information, and what loose information could cause to the people and how damaging it is to the environment and the people. You see, you can say anything you like about Ayodele Fayose. He has his opinion, and as long as he can stand by his opinion anywhere, I think you should just give him that benefit. And I would also very quickly say this. You see, you can't totally say, before Fayose would come out and make such a very bold claim on national TV, he must have had, one or two things. However, when you had one or two things together, it might not necessarily mean that it's leading you towards that same direction that you are thinking. It could be something else. You could remember when he came out to say Oyo State government received 50 billion from the federal government, and then the first information that came out was that, oh, there was nothing like that. And then he kept pressing their neck, and then they came out to say, look, it wasn't 50 billion naira, it was 30 billion naira. And then he said, oh, but you said you did not receive any form of fund from the federal government. And they said, look, we have not even spent the money. What we spent was from the state coffers. Where is the one that you collected? It's still a question that should be asked, which was eventually said to be, sitting in a bank account or something. There was different narratives at that time, and at the point, people just forgot about what they were, the money, and then moved on. However, this is not to dignify whatever it is Fayose said on national TV. But just like you mentioned, it was not me that said that. It was General Sani Abacha that said, look, if insurgency lasts more than 24 hours in any state, it means that government is complicit, or they are handling it with, like I said, desicca attitude. And we mentioned earlier this morning that it took the governor well over 10 days to visit where the incident happened in his own state. Even the Inspector General of Police, who was, resident in Abuja, was in Ibadan, was there at, that community, even before delegates from the Oyo State government got there. What that signals is that I think we are not taking things serious enough. Fayose could come out to say anything, but then that only fingers the government to do more, to do better. Be on your toes. Sit tight, do the right thing. I am usually sad when the government comes out, when it comes to securing lives and properties of the people. They don't control the police, they don't control this, they are not in charge of anything. But we are told, and it is written, it is part of the constitution, that you are the chief security officer. In fact, they say this a lot of times. Late Isiaq Abiola Ajimobi, Senator Isiaq Abiola Ajimobi, used to say this, that he is the constituted authority in a state. So in fact, it became a slang. Okay, so if you are the constituted authority, and that is not even to make some sort of unnecessary claims, he was right. He was the constituted authority, and as we speak now, Governor Seyi Makinde is the constituted authority in Oyo. Whether he likes that term or not, that is the truth. And he has every right to, in fact, there was a time that Yesom told Rotimi Amechi that if he was coming to River State, he has to be in the know, because if he doesn't,
it might not guarantee his safety.
it's safety.
No, yeah.
Meaning that if your dignitary is coming to your state, you know exactly how to make sure that their safety is smooth and sound. Look at Ahmed Gulak when he went to Imo State during that period when he was maimed in Imo. It showed that the governor has that capacity to secure you. He has the capacity to call security agencies to say, look, we have someone coming in, you have to do some sort of this perimeter screening, know what exactly is going on in these places. It's going to be here.
Security briefing.
There has to be briefings. And the governor is now saying he does not control this, but you have police officers in your entourage. Say for when the president said they should withdraw all police officers, you have members of the civil defense in your team. And you have a security advisor. You have a commissioner of police in your state. So it means that you cannot liaise with your commissioner of police and tell him what exactly you want. Then why is he here? So I'm not dignifying Fayoshe, but he's just trying to make a point. And the point he has made, the state government should come out and say, look, we are not part of all of this. We are doing everything in our capacity to make sure that we solve the issue of insecurity in Oyo State. I think that will put that to bed.
I think if there's one thing to say, whatever the case is, whoever speaks does not concern us as much as the children and their teachers must be back.
Right.
And my name is Andolo Akpo Ido. This is where we draw the curtains on this edition of Daybreak Live today. Thank you very much for joining us. Join us together again tomorrow, same time, same station. Bye for now.
Well, Samson Balogun is right. Keep being good out there. Keep being safe. Bye for now.